Welcome to the Dusty Jobs podcast from Imperial Systems. Industry knowledge to make your job easier and safer.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Dusty Jobs podcast. We're glad to have you guys with us today. Today we have a really interesting guest of Corbett Hefner of Formation Ag. How you doing today, Corbett?
Excellent. How are you guys?
Doing good. So Corbett's going to be here talking to us about the hemp industry, right?
Correct.
That's right. Now, you guys are based out of Colorado, is that right?
Right, Monte Vista, Colorado, up in the mountains.
There you go. So, Corbett, how did you get started in this whole interesting world of agricultural products, and where'd you get started, and how'd you end up here?
I've been in agriculture my entire life. My family was in fertilizer, and we had some farming, a little bit of farming on the side, and I've always farmed. And my degree was in plant pathology, so I've always had an interest in agriculture in one shape or another. But I was in the flexible packaging industry, plastic mesh and fresh produce bags for 25 some odd years. And it was in Texas and Wisconsin for the bulk of it, Wisconsin. And we decided to move back to our home area to be by our family in 2015, I don't remember now. But anyway, about that time, I started with Power Zone Equipment / Power Zone Agriculture in mid 2016 as engineering manager / hemp person, because Power Zone Equipment made petroleum fluid moving products, large industrial pumps, dewatering for mines, salt water, kind of things, huge pumps. And in 2015, when oil went kind of south, they were looking for other things to keep their staff busy. And one of the salesmen said, hey, this hemp thing is just starting to take off. Where we live in Monte Vista is in the San Luis Valley of Colorado, which is a very large agricultural area. I think there's 150,000, no, it's more than that, 150, 170,000 square acres of might be square miles actually, of farm ground here. It's all irrigated farm ground, but this is a very, very large potato area, second or third largest potato area in the country. And hemp, because of its water consumption, is a really good rotation crop to go into potatoes. Coors barley is grown here, a lot of other vegetables like spinach or lettuce, some carrots, etc., quinoa, a little canola. But hemp fits into the rotation strategy because of it's very easy on water. It does not need a lot of water. It'll take whatever you want to feed it, but it doesn't need it. And that's a major issue in our area. So in 2016, they hired me on as that managing position, and was supposed to do a little double duty there for a while. It was about 80% engineering and 20% hemp, and that made it about 6 weeks when CBD and the hemp industry just exploded. And I got out of the engineering manager thing and then started the just only focused on hemp equipment. We built cortication first because we thought that was a bottleneck in the industry, because we fully, since the onset of the industry, thought the grain, fiber, herd aspect of the hemp business is where the bigger uses are, and definitely from an acreage standpoint and a viability for helping farmers be a little more autonomous, that this was the approach. We got into CBD harvesting because we found there just wasn't a very good CBD harvesting solution. So we built the clean cut harvesters for whole plant horticultural style farming. We have the clean strip machine for bud type harvesting when you're on narrow spacings. For growing CBD, it also works for hemp grain. And we've got
Corbett, I'm gonna have to pause you here because you're telling me so much information. I'm not catching it at all. Hold on. So the first thing you guys developed was what? Because I'd love to know this. The first thing you guys built was the cord machine.
The cortication equipment. The cortication, separating the fiber from the herd, right?
Gotcha.
That's where you get your opportunity for textiles or cordage or cellulose or insulation. The fiber herd is your animal bedding, hempcrete, for the two big ones that people are probably most familiar with, which is why we talk to you guys, because when you decorticate, you create an enormous amount of dust.
Oh, gotcha. So you have a big dust plume when you do that process, right? So that was the first machine you guys worked on. So what was the next thing? I heard you say it, but I'm still trying to learn a lot about this. CBD harvesting.
So we went from decortication. We were probably 5 years early on decortication. We've never stopped working on decortication. To get long line fiber, which is the goal of our equipment, and very, very good clean herd. We've never stopped working on it the whole time, but we got into CBD harvesting because we're a custom machine shop and people asked us to build it, and we did, and it works well. And we've developed, basically now we have 4 different harvesters for, 2 that are more focused on CBD, one for grain/CBD, and now we've got a dual head one that we're building in conjunction with Bish Enterprises that mount on any combine that allows farms to basically dual crop grain and fiber and do the harvest in one pass without having a dedicated, very, very expensive monster of a machine. We can implement this machine on pretty much any piece of equipment, take it off of that combine and let it go back to any other harvest crop that it wants to do without modifying the machine.
So it's just a new combine head that'll go onto any combine, but it's good for harvesting. Now, is that just for the fibers, or is it harvesting the CBDs, or will it do both?
Grain. It's more geared towards grain, which is your hemp parts and cold press oil seeds, etc. But underneath that grain head is the fiber head. So we've got this patent on this thing because it's very, very unique. The only approach in dual head harvesting at the moment are European, and they're not autonomous. You can't take this head off or you can't take the existing head off of machinery and put them back to use in other crops easily. This one, it's literally an attachment for a combine. And then we can collect the chaff out of the back with our grasshopper collection carts. And we've got 20 some odd different types of machines that we've either adapted or engineered from scratch for the hemp industry, whether it's harvesting, processing, or decortication of the fiber and herd, grain cleaning equipment. For CBD, we can separate the flower from the stalk without destroying the trichomes, and we've got a lot of different machines we've had to engineer and innovate from scratch to help support the industry.
Wow, it sounds like you guys have. Like you've kind of taken the process from the beginning, almost the whole way through here for someone. So if someone is looking at getting into this, if there's a farmer out there who's looking to get into this, they would. I mean, it sounds like you guys might just be able to walk them right through the whole thing.
Well, we started a consultant group and a processing group. So we've got everything from genetics all the way to offtake, finished good products out of fiber and herd that we can help collaborate with these farms and make it a viable crop for them. We had places to take the crops. So we saw that as a necessity. We had to get basically vertically integrated from seed to sale, if you will. To make the industry move forward. It just wasn't moving at the rate that we thought it should, because we want to make a lot of machinery for people, because our overall goal here is to help support these farms. They needed another crop that they can get some revenue off of and get a little more control over their destiny, and hemp was a perfect crop to do that with. Yeah,
and like you said, it's definitely been a growing industry, and it's taken off. So what would you say are some of the biggest challenges that you guys have seen that you've innovated to overcome? I mean, we talk about dust. We do a lot with dust here. I know with you guys also help manage that process on your plant so that it's a safe environment for the farmers and for the workers. But what are some other things that might be a challenge that you guys have just innovated and overcome?
Definitely having offtake for these different crops because of there's so many uses for this plant, finished good uses for it. It's kind of hard to put your finger on something and say, this is what I'm going to go after. So trying to build equipment that is easily adaptable and flexible to help the customers put out the most flexible finished good they can was definitely a challenge, because different genetics, different farming locations, different farming conditions, agronomy-wise, latitude, longitude, fertility, moisture, all can affect how the hemp grows, and definitely can affect how you process the hemp stalk. I'm talking stalk since for dust collection. It definitely affects that. So to engineer these machines to be flexible and adaptable we're building our systems modular. So if you don't need really high-end clean fiber, you don't have to purchase those machines. If you want really good controlled and milled herd down to small sizes, then we have, like your dust collection systems integrated with the dual vacuum hammer mills, because we can grind the herd down to 20 microns, 50 microns. But the smaller you go with the particle size, the harder it is to handle it. We struggle with the dust collection. I mean, it's tough. It is so small. It's tough to create a draw to get everything out of the machinery.
Right.
Every lot can be different. Every set of bales can be different. So that's a real challenge, is how do you engineer for every single eventuality? And you just can't. At some point in time, we learn constantly. So we pivot constantly. The big machinery manufacturers hate that. They want to draw something and just make it over and over again. And we haven't had that luxury yet. We're getting to where the main machinery design hasn't been changing, but some of these ancillary pieces of equipment to finish it, we're keep modifying, changing, because we learn all the time. The new application needs a different technique.
It sounds like you guys are able to be nimble and reactive to what your customer needs are. And that's sounds like a big thing in this industry, that, depending on what direction someone is going to take that product, you guys are able to help them come up with a solution for it, if I'm hearing this right.
Right. Yeah, we have to be flexible. That's the biggest challenge, is how do you engineer to provide a flexible platform, a flexible piece of machinery to break the products down into what people are asking for. If you don't have a home for the product, if you don't have a sale for your goods, then it's kind of hard to stay in business. So that's been one of our biggest challenges, really, is how do you tackle everything and do a good job at it? So.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like you guys are working hard at it, and you keep figuring it out as it goes along here and continuing to innovate. So if you kind of touched on this a little bit, where do you think the future of the industry is going? What do you think is going to be the realm where, is it going to be genetics where, it helps make things more universal or more common, or what do you see being in the industry, where it's going to go?
I still think the fiber and herd market is probably the bigger sector of this business, just because there's so many uses, from plastics to textiles. I mean, and everything in between. I mean, that's the bigger acreage consumption of this crop, because you got to recognize, the more acres we plant of hemp and the more acres we pull out of traditional grain crops, corn, wheat, barley, whatever it is, that's going to help those commodity prices stabilize too, and provide a little bit better of a financial future for these farms. That's probably the bigger one. I mean, everybody wants to do textiles, but that's probably one of the harder endeavors in this industry. We've successfully made fibers to do that, but we've lost the infrastructure in the U.S. to finish the fibers and get it into that state. So we're having to do quite a bit of work now on reinvigorating that and getting that equipment either back or innovating, because when we lost that equipment 40, 50, 60 years ago, 80 years ago, the way that machinery ran, with the number of people that it took to run it, I don't think we can duplicate in today's market. It would be too costly. You just can't find that amount of people anymore. Labor is becoming a very scarce resource. So to just say, okay, I'll just bring all that infrastructure back, I don't know if that's going to work. We just don't have the number of people to run it. So we're going to have to do a lot of innovation in there to close this gap. Once I've got the fiber into a thread, then I can do a lot of different work in it, from textiles, cordage, whatever the case may be. But from clean fiber to a thread, filament's what I call them. That's the plastic name for an individual piece, but there's still a lot to be learned there, and that's what we're working on right now. Or I am personally. I still do a lot of the development and R&D for the company.
Well, that's great. I didn't even know that the hemp product could be used as a plastic supplement. Is that what it would be used in that realm, to help eliminate the plastic? It would be more of a hemp plastic?
At some point in time, when people have done on lab scale a little isolation work, and they believe they can make a resin pellet in essence and make a truly degradable plastic out of it. At the moment, when we use the micronized product, 50 microns or less, you can actually blend it into plastic now as an additive. It's not a true biodegradable, but it's a source reduction technique, and that lets you be a little better. I mean, you don't have to have, I mean, it'd be awesome if we could have 100% biodegradable hemp plastic today, but I'm also pretty realistic and know that it's going to have to be a slow roll approach. Adaptation and acceptance of those products is going to take them a little bit. Performance is everything in plastics. If you make a mesh, you know, for filter media, spun blown filter media stuff, it's got to perform.
Yep.
So, you know, to get people to switch from what they're doing today that's known and established and you can produce to a standard is one thing, and putting in a substitution that's completely different takes a little while to accept that. So you got to be realistic about it, but it's going to happen. I mean, there's some sharp people out there working on that. Really excited to see what they come up with it, because I used a lot of plastic and I would love to see that happen.
Yeah, I think that would just be great for everybody. Great for agriculture, great for the environment, great for everybody if we can start to find clean, renewable resources that help help eliminate some of these other areas that we're struggling in a little bit right now. So
you bet. Paper pulp might be an easier one, but it's large scale. But I have seen 100% machine-made hemp paper done in the U.S. It's a little narrow web. It's 24 or 28 inches wide, but boy, it's a heck of a start. It's really beautiful stuff.
Yeah.
I'm excited to see what they do in the paper industry.
Right. Yeah. Instead of having to harvest a tree that takes, 20 to 30 years to mature, if you could have a crop that is every year, that would be another great area that we could use that in. This is all exciting stuff. We're glad that you guys are working on it and helping innovate, not just for, the health and safety of the people working on it, but man, you're helping with, it sounds like, the health and safety of everybody in the general population too, with innovation in this world.
It's all tied together.
It is.
You can't have one without the other. We've got to keep taking those steps.
Yep.
It takes a while.
It's well, nothing simple is done overnight, right?
No, never is. But we've lost some of our patience in the country. So innovation and true paradigm shifting technology takes a little bit.
It does. But we're glad to have people like you guys working on it, and that's kind of what we do here too in Imperial, is try to continue to innovate and help people like you. Whenever you guys are trying to make a cleaner environment for the workers, that's what we're doing here. And it's great to see other people working on innovating for the health and safety of not just those that are working, but, the overall environment, and providing resources for people to be able to do that. Well, Corbett, I don't know if you have anything else that you want to say or touch on about you guys, but I really appreciate the time you've given us here. Is there anything else you want to say?
No, if they want to, your audience was to look at what we've got, you can go to our formation-ag.com website and look at some of the machines that we've got, and follow LinkedIn stuff. I post different stuff that we do in the industry, and right, wrong, or indifferent. It's all out there, and you take a look at it. And if you learn something from it, great. If you got questions, let us know. We're always happy to talk about agriculture, farming, and farming of hemp, and equipment for that, and solutions for people's problems. That's why we're here, is to help them solve their problems.
Yep. And that's, what was your website one more time?
Formation-ag.com.
Formation-ag.com. That's great. You guys are on LinkedIn and probably all the social media platforms, correct?
Everything.
There you go.
We're a bunch of engineering kind of guys, so we're probably not as good at it as we should be, but we've got it out there.
You guys aren't worried about as much the Instagram as trying to actually come up with the solutions for the problems, right?
Yeah, during harvest, I didn't put anything out there for probably 6 or 8 weeks. We got busy. A couple of us got coronavirus, and that really screwed up our harvest plan and season. So we didn't do very good at it. Yeah, but we worry about other stuff before that. Right now we're worried about supply chain issues.
I think that's everywhere. But if we are able to start figuring out some of these things with hemp, and then we can bring that all back to the States and be able to produce those products here locally, that'll help us as a country, as an economy too. So,
absolutely, there's no reason we can't do filter media for your collector kind of machines. It's going to take a little bit, but it's a very viable solution.
Yeah. So, Well, hey, I just want to say thanks again for coming on today. We appreciate it. If anybody out there is interested in finding out more about Imperial Systems, you can find us on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, Apple, Spotify. You can look us up on all of those things. Corbett, once again, thanks for coming. We appreciate all the information you've given us. It's just a wealth of knowledge. We're excited to see where you guys are going. And everyone out there, thanks for listening. Stay healthy and stay safe, and we'll catch up with you next time.
Thanks, Don. Appreciate the time.
Thanks for listening to the Dusty Jobs podcast. Breathe better, work safer.